Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Checking in on the market rundown, so the bears finally have proven something. This is SPX, using SPX because SPY still has the dividend distribution, which makes it a bit different. The biggest difference, just looking comparatively, SPX is holding the low of June 19th at this point, whereas SPY has broken below that level because it was artificially adjusted down. So, this is the most bearish day that we have seen since we bottomed out, and that's notable because that's 3+ weeks. So we look at the volume on SPY, and SPY is showing us it is above average volume, nothing huge, but it is notable. So I'm looking to buy the dip, and you might be saying, all Dan does is go bullish and look to buy dips. And my answer to that is, as long as we are in a daily and weekly uptrend, I'm looking bullish. If we lose the daily uptrend, I will shift my direction, but it's very simple for me to just clearly eliminate one whole side of the equation. So congrats to the bears that made their profit today. Yesterday showed us signs that daily consolidation was underway, and we got significant follow through today. But if I am looking at the longer term perspective and using that as a scaffolding from my trades, and we have hourly RSIs on SPY and QQQ, which we'll look at in just a second, crushed, that means look for hourly oversold bounces because these names are still forming daily higher lows. Now, a scenario where I will begin to look bearish will be if we drop down, hold our higher low here, or break it, of course, but if we were to hold 28.7470 and then bounce and set a daily lower high and then drop down to a lower low, that is a confirmation of a trend change back to the bears. Otherwise, we're just looking for a daily higher low to form compared to that level. So looking at SPX, the hourly RSI is not beat up because there's not extended hours involved. It is just getting oversold, but it's a different story than SPY. A little bit of a bear flag after hours right now, but SPY closed the day with the hourly RSI down at 20, and QQQ's hourly RSI was down in the teens today. My ideal setup, again, I'm a day trader. I'm taking this one day at a time. I want to see a gap down open tomorrow. I want to see RSI in the teens on SPY and QQQ, and that tells me to buy the dip. And I will be looking for bullish entries, and if I don't get any bullish entries that I like in terms of setups, then I won't trade tomorrow. That's how I attack the market. That's what works for me. And again, day trading perspective, much different than if you are a swing trader. So any bounce on SPY, we're just going to be looking for an hourly lower high to form because today was just a straight drop. So we're not changing this hourly trend for SPY anytime soon. Remember, we have to change the hourly trend in order for us to be confident that our daily higher low has been established. So if we pull back, hold 28.74 on SPX, and change the hourly trend with a bounce tomorrow, just an oversold bounce, setting a lower high, then we need a higher low and a higher high, that would tell us our daily higher low has been established. So that's something we're keeping an eye out for. The two ways that I will play the oversold hourly bounce will be either number one, just scale out and lock in my profit, anticipating an hourly lower high will form, or number two, scale out half, put my stop loss down at break even, and try and ride the other half for oversold bounce follow through. IWM, a bit of an early indication for the weakness. It had its big red day on big bear volume yesterday, and the rest of the market followed today. We are now losing the daily uptrend on IWM. So IWM, we have our high of the bounce, low of the pullback, lower high, and now it's up to the bulls to hold this support of 145.32 to stay in a tightening range. Otherwise, we go from an uptrend of higher lows and higher highs on the weekly to a lower high and a lower low if we were to break 145.33 support, but I anticipate that it will be more likely than not that we will hold that weekly support, at least initially, and trade in this tightening weekly range into at least mid-July, I would say. So QQQ, big red day, volume not really there. It's below average volume, below the 20-day average volume today, but a big pullback like SPY. QQQ was the vast majority of the weakness in the overall market today. Anything above 181.94 is a higher low. So as we're approaching a daily support and the hourly RSI, and again, this hourly RSI is being cooled off in extended hours. So if we could see a gap down open and another leg down, things would get back to extreme again. If we see a higher open, the only play then that I would like would be a potential bottom fishing play off of the lows of today. But the bottom line is the hourly RSI got down to 16 on QQQ. That tells me to be scouting for an entry because we're in a daily uptrend. If we were in a daily downtrend, that RSI level can get more extended, it's less meaningful, and it's a completely different scenario. So that's how I establish my trade game plans. What are the longer term trends doing, and how do I shape the shorter term time frames to fit within what those longer trends are doing? So for QQQ, this could be a scenario where I could see a head and shoulders pattern forming where you have the left shoulder, there's our head. If we hold the support level and keep the daily uptrend, bounce, can't break to higher highs, and then roll over, that would be a head and shoulders pattern, but that's a ways away from happening, and we can just take it one day at a time as always, and be watching to see if that support level does hold into tomorrow. XLF broke key short-term support of 26.93, but the bears didn't get much follow-through. If we get any bounce follow-through for the bulls, we're just going to look for a lower high compared to 27.59. So the XLF bulls would have to see a significant shift to try and come out of this weakness that we're seeing. But again, XLF, in my opinion, is pricing in the odds of a rate cut in July, which the market is anticipating. XLV pulling back, still healthy overall on the daily time frame. Anything above 90.90 is a daily high or low. So the bulls are not concerned about losing the daily uptrend at this point. We have a support of 92.66 as well. Again, just a reminder, Democratic debate tomorrow night and then again Thursday night. And the healthcare and biotech sector, if I had to pick a sector that would be most impacted, or I should say most likely to be mentioned in the debates, it would be tech and healthcare and biotech. Healthcare and biotech more so than tech sector, but I believe, talk of breaking up Google or things like that, Fed oversight in these tech sector names could be brought up as well. Biotech sector pulling back, just looking for a daily higher low on XBI compared to 80.65. Is the hourly RSI oversold? Not quite. We got there with a little bit of a bounce. If we see another leg down into hourly oversold conditions, that's when I start looking for daily higher lows to be established as long as we are still in an uptrend. And again, any of these bounces, pretty much from everybody that we just looked at, on the hourly chart, we will just be looking for hourly lower highs on the initial bounce. Volatility index finally getting a bit more follow through. Pretty contained the last 2 days within the range of Friday or the range of Thursday. Getting over that range now. And 1980 is the clear level to be watching as we have a lower high and a lower low. So any bounce here, we're just going to be looking for a lower high compared to 1980. And we'll need to see a daily trend change with a higher low and a higher high for that momentum to clearly shift. Oil still holding on for the bulls, the 4-hour uptrend intact, 56.74, held support by 9 cents, and then we got follow through for the bulls. So there's our support holding. A new 4-hour higher low is 57.20. Anything above 57.20 keeps those bulls in control. Next resistance level is up at 59.67 as the oil bulls have made a notable bounce from their lows. Natural gas, daily inside bar, bulls still battling this daily exponential resistance. Again, 2412 is the most important level for me. If we don't break it, there's an inverse head and shoulder potential setup here as well. And anything under 2412 is just a daily lower high. We need a clear daily trend change on natural gas for momentum to shift. Gold started to top out today. And we had a scenario where market weakness allowed the bear miners to bounce. And then gold broke an hourly equilibrium high. Let's draw it out. But gold broke the hourly equilibrium and gave those bear miners an extra boost up. And I take that back. Gold broke this equilibrium bullish. 14.35.41. We broke it bullish by less than $1 and then dumped. So when you break a equilibrium resistance level, if you don't break all the levels, and that's why the tighter the equilibrium, the better. So it's easier to break all levels at once and convincingly follow through. If you only break one level and you don't break the second one, that's a red flag. And then, of course, breaking support was the big time red flag after that follow through. So we lost the hourly uptrend, the 4-hour time frame. You could still say the 4-hour uptrend is intact. And you could say that we lost it because of this continuation attempt and then further pullback. I wouldn't argue too significantly in either way. For me, the 4-hour uptrend is still intact, and we would have to see a clear shift from this period of consolidation to a bull attempt and then a loss of that support. And also the exponential support is something I'm visually watching as well, which is keeping the bulls fairly strong. So daily inside bar currently forming. We also have the pattern of a higher low every day for 7 days in a row. If we lose that pattern, we zoom out for gold and just look for a daily higher low to form. But this was the oversold bounce that took place on the bear miners. Dust got a 10% plus move today. The setup this morning was a play off of the pre-market lows, which held. And just looking at the action for Dust, big bull move out of the gate, big bull volume on the new high of the day. And then right here, so this is the weakness in the miners and profit taking from the bull miners and shorts covering from the bear miners to start the day. And then right here is where gold broke the hourly equilibrium bearish and we saw another significant leg up. So we'll see how much follow through we can get on these bear miners. The hourly time frame has not convincingly changed the trend yet, but we have a higher low now at 11.15, and if tomorrow the bulls can break 11.87, that will confirm the hourly trend change. We'll then zoom out on the daily and scout just a lower high. We're not looking for any kind of significant follow through. We're just looking for a daily higher low on gold if this is indeed the temporary top. So bulls of the bear miners, if you're in a bear miner right now, in my opinion, you want to be scaling out into strength to lock in your profit because you are fighting against the trend. So again, the prevailing trend is what's most important, and then we use the shorter term time frames. If I know that we are just looking for a daily higher low on gold and just a lower high on these bear miners, then that's going to impact what we use the short term information for as far as the hourly time frame. So we'll see what kind of setup we get tomorrow. Again, that's going to completely dictate how I attack the day with what my game plan is. A higher open for SPY and QQQ would be a way different setup for me than if we get a gap down open. If there's a gap down open and the RSI levels are still very beat up and we're approaching daily support levels, that's when I am looking to make entries. If the bears are going to really prove themselves, increasing bear volume and a move down to the low of the previous consolidation tomorrow would certainly catch our attention. And if we lose the daily uptrend, let's just look at SPX again. If we lose the daily uptrend in the S&P 500, we then zoom out to the weekly chart and we look for a weekly higher low compared to 27.28, which is the low of the pullback in May. So that's that. Appreciate you watching. We'll check back in tomorrow and see if the bears do get any significant follow through. Keep in mind that for these miners, which have great volatility, it's gold and the market that has an impact. Gold market is primary information that is going to be significant, and the market reaction will be secondary, but both certainly have influence. Thanks again. Do good things. See you soon. Now we'll look at the barn. So bottom of the barn here is just a carport, but we would utilize the up. I would definitely need to get a bit better insulation, but just looking to have, 3 goats, so it should be plenty big. And I'd probably need to put some big fans up in here because it's definitely hot and stifling. So this comes off the top side of the barn where the goats would come out, and I was thinking of putting some fencing to cut off right here and then cut off along the side of the brush here. And there's an area in the back, which I'll go to in just a second, where I'm thinking they'll be concentrated. Chicken coop already established. I've always done my chickens free range. There's only appears to be 1 hawk on the property, but it's pretty small. So maybe starting them inside the cage and eventually giving them more freedom. Before we go up to the proposed goat area, this is the barn and that's the house. And we got the ponds over there. So this is where the perennials already are established. We got a row of raspberries and behind them are a row of grapes. You used to have strawberries here, but obviously they didn't make it. So I don't know if we would want to work with this cloth, this black cloth here, or pull it up. Certainly would have to worry about erosion for the time being if it were pulled up. So we'll put something here. Originally I was thinking the figs, but they might get too big and would block out the sun for the other guys. Maybe blueberries. So now we'll go back behind the chicken coop, and there's a lot of woods up in here that I'd probably put a fence on the other side of these grapes so the goats have access to all this brush in here. So there's the barn in the back of the chicken coop, and it opens up here. Could potentially put a tiny home here eventually, but for now I imagine it being the goats area. This back wall or back borderline of the property is fenced from the neighbors already, so that's convenient. And then looking down in here, this is the area that I would have to fence off, because you can see the perennials are down on the other side, but I feel like that'd be a nice amount of greenery. And also thinking of getting the goats next spring, so anything that you would recommend planting in this area now, fast growing stuff that they could benefit from. Losing my breath. Hostas or I don't know what. I'd also like to put something in here to block off a bit more, get a bit more privacy. The previous owner definitely did a good job of putting evergreens around the property edges, but there's just some holes to plug. Perhaps put something right in there. Now we're gonna walk through here to the back end of the house. So here's the back of the house. There's some nice clear space here and it does get good sun, but it's also the what is it, leaching field of the septic system. They said that in the 20 years they were here, it never really was anything, but we couldn't do too deep roots here. So I was thinking maybe a few more raised beds up in here. And then I want to do a bunch of wildflowers. So I don't know if we would designate their own raised beds for wildflowers, or I'd be open to putting a tarp down over the winter and putting some weight on it and killing the grass, and then in the spring just sprinkling a whole bunch of wildflower mix. I'd also want to get a hive or two, not necessarily for honey, I don't really care about that too much, but more so just for all the annuals and perennials and just the overall health of the ecosystem. So now we'll curl around into the driveway. So I got a waterfall feature here, the areas that we were just looking at. That's where I suggested potential raised beds, and then the wildflowers are on the other side of this magnolia. But this was, they used chemicals for this, and I'm gonna transition it to natural. So I've got someone that I haven't really talked to yet, but I'm reaching out to some people to see if they are knowledgeable in that. Definitely need a new filter and all that, and I'd like to put some little fish in there and some snails and stuff. I'd like to be able to get into it in the summer. It's pretty deep. And any kind of plants up here, there are already a couple little ones, but anything that would help with natural filtration. There's definitely a bunch of frogs that live back here.